Good morning, everybody. It's 11 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started. Um, if you would like to be interactive with this quick presentation today, you can click on the link that's in the chat box, or or you can go to joinpd.com and type in that code EAIKL, and you'll be able to interact with the presentation as it's going on, and it will show up on your screen as well. Hopefully everybody can hear me. If not, I have the chat box up so that I can check in and problem solve if needed, but it looks like I'm the only person connected to the Share deck to be interactive with the slides. So, oh, there's somebody else. Perfect. So you can click on the link in the chat box to join, or you can go to joinpd.com and type in the code EAIKL, and that will get you into the interactive slides. But I'm going to go ahead and get started because we don't have a lot of time. Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad that you're here. Let's see, start class. Okay, so this session is on how we can increase master-oriented feedback with single-point rubrics. If you would like a copy of the slides, there's a link at the bottom, and then there's also the QR code up in the top right-hand corner. So hi, I'm Rachel Juergensen. I'm a second-year doc student at the University of Missouri-Columbia, working towards my PhD in special education with an emphasis in science. I'm so happy that you're here to talk about single point rubrics. So some learning outcomes for today. We're going to explore ways to implement UDL checkpoint 8.4, which is increasing master-oriented feedback within a college level course. Although using single point rubrics to increase feedback would work at any level. We're also going to just review and identify some elements of high quality feedback, and then really focus on and talk about how single point rubrics can support the delivery of master-oriented feedback to our students. So I'd like to hear from those of you who are in the Pear Deck and interacting with the slides. What are your students most interested in? So if you could choose one of those options, that would be great. Are your students more interested in their grades, so the product, or are they more interested in the learning, so the process? Showing some of the results you should see on your screen. Looks like we've got most people saying that their students are more interested in what their grade is over their learning and growth. And I find the same things with my students as well. So currently I'm teaching a course for pre-service teachers in general education. It's a science methods course. And as they came in, definitely the focus was more on the grade. And so that's why I had the idea to implement using single point rubrics in my course to kind of move them away from thinking about the grade so much and move them more towards thinking about the learning that they're doing and the growing that they're doing towards meeting the standards for the course. So just as a review, this is actually pulled straight from the UDL guidelines, and it actually highlights all of the elements that we should do when we're giving high quality feedback to, oh, sorry, I have a, sorry, I'm checking my notes here. Okay. Okay, sorry. So these are the elements that we want to focus on when we are providing high quality feedback to our students. And luckily, when you implement single point rubrics within your course, you're able to incorporate all of these elements into the feedback that you are giving to your students. Okay, and so what research tells us about feedback is that it has one of the most powerful impacts on student learning, and it's also a critical aspect of highly effective instruction. So it's definitely something that we want to be incorporating into assignments, into class when we're working with our students, because it does have such a high impact. So I'm interested in just kind of hearing from the group, and what is your experience with single point rubrics? So have you heard of them? Have you kind of tried them out? Do you use them regularly? I'm just interested in seeing where people are at with the use of single point rubrics. So if you could interact with this slide and give us a little information about where you're at, that would be great. So I see Derek in the chat said he's not familiar with single point rubrics. Thank you for sharing. Somebody else said they have not heard of them. Someone else said they've tried it with one of their classes and loved it. Let's look at some of the response on the Pear Deck. So we've got most people are in. I've never heard of a single point rubric. A couple people in. I've heard of them, but I've not used them. So that's great. So I think this is definitely an important discussion to have. So I'm excited that we are all here to talk about it. So let me move on here. Okay, so unfortunately, the use of single point rubrics, there's a huge research gap. So as I was looking for research to read about and read up on single point rubrics, the article on the right, Single Point Rubric, a Tool for Responsible Student Assessment, Student Self-Assessment from 2010, is really the first article that I have found on the use of single point rubrics. And then the blog post on the left, Meet the Hashtag Single Point Rubric by Jennifer Gonzalez, kind of pulls on that article as she talks about more of an application on how to apply single point rubrics to increase high quality feedback. And then the only other piece of research I could find is down at the bottom, and it was a work in progress, but it's about developing single point rubrics for use in formative assessment. So there's not a lot of research that has happened thus far on single point rubrics, but they're so powerful. I feel like it's definitely a research avenue that should be explored. Okay, so in a traditional rubric, you might see something like this on the screen. This is actually from an assignment from the course that I teach, the elementary science course. And most rubrics look like this, and all of the research behind rubrics are about rubrics that look similar to this one, where there's what you have to do to get 3 points, what you have to do to get 2 points or 1 point or 0 points. There's a few problems with these kinds of rubrics. One, they're overwhelming for students. It's a lot to look at, it's a lot to take in, and that can be a barrier for some students who are wondering, what do I need to do to master this skill? Additionally, it's really overwhelming for teachers to come up with all of the different criteria for the different ratings that are on these rubrics. So the idea, and another thing is, students don't look at a rubric like this and think, I'm going to do what's in the 1 point level, to go for 1 point. Our students, who are generally focused more on what their grade is going to be, are going to look at that 3 point rating and think about what they can do within their learning and within their assignment to earn those 3 points. So the idea behind a single point rubric is taking those criteria and those levels of mastery that are within the 3 point range, or whatever the highest points you might have on your rubric, and putting those into a single point rubric. So everything that I had there is now here in the middle of this single point rubric under criteria. So this is the criteria that students have to meet to show that they have mastered this skill in whatever it is. Mine happens to be in designing a lesson plan for elementary science students. Yours could be in whatever it is that you're teaching in higher education. The way that feedback is integrated into these single point rubrics is with the columns on the left and the right. So the column on the left, excuse me, I've titled Areas to Grow. So those would be things that students might need to work on. So this is where I would incorporate my high quality feedback, looking back at those elements from the checkpoint, from the UDL guidelines, and give specific feedback on what students need to do within their assignment to get to that criteria, to meet that criteria. On the right side, in the right-hand column, that's where I would list areas to celebrate. So things that the students are showing that they have met the criteria, that they've done really well, that I want to give them some positive feedback on, related to the mastery of the criteria in the middle column. So this is an example of a single point rubric that I'm using on an assignment with my students this semester. They haven't turned in their assignment yet, but it's definitely something I'm giving them before the assignment is due, when I'm introducing the assignment, so they know exactly what the criteria is. It's also a rubric that I'll use along the way as they're working on their assignment to give them feedback on things that they might need to grow on or work on, or things that they're doing really well that I want to celebrate. University of Missouri does use Canvas as our platform, our learning platform. So this is what the single point rubric, this same one, looks like on Canvas. It doesn't look exactly like I would like it to. I would like if it had the areas to grow on the left and the areas to celebrate on the right, but I will just leave my high quality feedback for my students relating to each criteria in that right-hand column and see how that works out. This is my first time teaching this course and using these single point rubrics with undergraduate students. I've used them with my elementary students before. So I'm really interested and excited to see what their feedback is regarding these and how it helps them think about their learning and focus on their learning, focus on things they can do to grow to meet the criteria, and kind of move their focus away from, oh, I want to get this many points on this assignment, to, oh, this is what I need to do to continue to work on my assignment to move towards mastery, and really focus on that learning piece with that high quality feedback. So I'm wondering so since the majority of the group said they had not heard of single point rubrics, I'm just wondering what your thinking is, what your takeaways might be, what questions you might have. So if you could put that either in the chat box, I can read those out loud for everybody, or if you could interact with the slide, that would be great, just to get an idea of where we're at. So what takeaways? I see in the chat box, someone said they love how it shifts the focus from points to content. It's more competency based, which was part of that checkpoint above. Great. It makes sense. Yeah, start by using it for rough drafts. It really does focus on mastery. Someone else is going to use them. That's awesome. Start with this and then add it to create a full rubric. Yeah, for sure, to assess that final project. It incorporates that piece of self-reflection, which is great. Someone asked, do you still give students a score or a grade, or rather just written feedback? I personally will still give the students a final score or a grade, really only because I have to, but I'm really hoping that the high quality feedback that I give along the way is more meaningful to them than maybe that point they get at the end. And I'm also hoping that the feedback that I give them will help move them towards mastery so that they are getting the grade that they're hoping or expecting to get. Okay, so this was a super, super quick session. We're kind of running out of time. I'm going to go to the last slide. Thank you for sharing your responses. So we really only have 1 minute left. If anyone has a question, or if anyone would like to continue this conversation or collaborate together in working on single point rubrics with our undergraduate classes, I would love to talk to other people who are using them or who are interested in them. So please feel free to reach out. You can find me on Twitter there, and that's my email address. I really do appreciate everybody coming to this session, and I hope it was meaningful for you. Let's see. Here's a question. So the grade is whatever you determine. So there will be points assigned to each part of the rubric. That's just how it's set up in Canvas. So it's just based on their performance uh, and how that aligns with the mastery that's in the middle, the criteria column. I hope that helps. Okay, so if there are continuing questions, please feel free to reach out. The session is over. I appreciate you joining me today for this discussion, and I hope you have a great rest of the conference.